Welcome. And today's video is going to be about how to master Excel. So we're going to be going over where you should place your hand and, what are the really good movement keys and shortcuts that you should just know in order to master Excel. The way this video will be different and the series will be different is that this will focus on making you become a master and truly understanding all of the power and functionality that comes with the software. When a lot of people talk about knowing how to use Excel, they say they know how to use it, and then you watch them move within the document, and it's depressing. Um, Before we even get into, pivot tables and advanced functions, and how to really go into VBA and simulations, things like that, we really need to start with the basics. And so we're just going to start right ahead and get going here. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is hand placement. And so I just snipped this offline. A lot of people, when they use Excel, they're going to be using their mouse. And this is really the first sign that, like, hey, you don't know what you're doing. So right here, I just circled on the left side and the right side here where your hand should be. So ideally, you're going to want your left pinky to be on the control key, and then your left ring finger on the shift key, and then your thumb on the space bar, and you can have your two other fingers just resting somewhere in there. And the reason why is because all the time you're going to be using Control, Shift, and Spacebar, and then you're going to be using some of these keys here as a shortcut. And for your right hand here, you're going to need to be constantly moving back and forth between the cells and navigating across using the arrow keys. So at first, it might feel a little bit weird, especially if you don't game or you're not really used to a keyboard. But trust me, that's where your hands are going to be ideally when you're in this software application. And so just get used to having your hands there and we can keep going. So the next thing we're going to talk about is how do we actually, this is more of a Windows thing than Excel, but how do we actually move around and move Excel around? So using the Windows key, what we can do is if I press Alt down and then Alt up, I can go from having the full screen to having a partial screen here. I can move it to the left, I can move it to the right, and all I'm doing is I'm holding the Windows key and then hitting an arrow button. And the best way to do it is just to play around with this a couple of times, and then you'll get really used to it. And what you can do is you can have two documents up at once. So I can have I can have my browser up, or I can have two Excel documents. This really helps if you don't have access to two monitors, and maybe you're just on your laptop. The next big thing, this one's super simple here. It's going to be Alt Tab. So, you're going to have a bunch of tabs open when you're working. You might have 4 or 5 Excel books, a couple of browsers, emails, and stuff. And pressing Alt, and then, well, we're going to pressing Alt a lot, but pressing let me back out of that. Pressing Alt Tab once is going to open this up, and then you can use the arrow keys to move around. So again, to open up this panel with all of your applications open, you just press Alt Tab, and then you're going to arrow key around. Now, what does the Alt key do? Now, if you saw there just a second ago, I press Alt and this whole taskbar lit up. So I'm going to use my mouse here for a second just to emphasize. Look at what happens when you press the Alt key once, okay? Now, if I press Escape, it's going to go away. So remember that I press Alt to activate, and then I can press Alt again, and it'll go away. So I press Alt just one time, and now we have access to all of these. So if I press Alt and then H, I'm going to go into the Home tab here, and now I have access to all of these things, and then I can press another hotkey. So we're going to get really used to that eventually, but for now I just want to bring that up, that when you want to use shortcuts up on the ribbon here, you're pressing the Alt key. So that's probably the most important key when it comes to shortcuts. Now, the quick access toolbar is really going to be your go-to for quickly adjusting things. So like if I want to edit a cell, I can come over here. I'll do it to the quick access toolbar here. So I'll press Alt and then I keybind my font color. So I can change this to blue, and then I keybound my highlight, so I can change this to red. And I can apply some borders to it as well. So this can be really useful. I like to put all of my formatting things on there, but just in case you haven't set your quick access toolbar up, you're just going to go to File, and then you're going to hit Options and Advanced, no, sorry, Quick Access Toolbar right here. And I'm going to pause there for a second in case you want to copy mine. Let's see, turn on autosave. I don't know why that's there. This isn't the Excel I usually work on, but these are the ones I usually have. So I'll always have font color, fill color, borders, this one's big, the Autofit column width, and I'll show you why. So if I'm working here, say I have a long text, and you notice how this column right here is too skinny for this. Well, if I type in something next to here, if I type in just X, this is going to cut this off so you can't see it. So all I do is I come here, I press Alt, and then I keybind my column width right here to 5. So I press Alt 5, and it automatically extends this column to be the right width. So I'm going to get rid of that. Okay. So the next thing you're going to want, and this is all set up still, we're going to do some add-ins. So go over to File, we're going to go to Options, and we're going to do add-ins. Now, personally, here are the ones I like. I like to make sure I have VBA activated and the solver pack. There are other add-ins you can get. You can download some things online if you prefer, but these are really the basic ones that I think everyone should have. All right, and now we're going to get over to movement. So this is the big one where you can really spot someone who's good at the software and someone who's new. But how do they move around? So the first thing we're going to say is just only using your right hand. I'm not using my mouse at all. You can see this hasn't been moved at all. Um, when I'm moving around, I'm just using the arrow keys. So, if I'm in A1, I can go all the way over here and all the way down to get to J17, right? But if I want to do that quickly, what I can do is I can add a control key. So now we're going to go next. I call it jump, control arrow. So if I'm at C11 and I want to get all the way up, I just hold down control and I press the up arrow, and it'll jump to the last cell in this group here. If I do it again, it'll jump there. If I do it again, it'll jump here. Now you can do control down, and you can go the opposite direction. Now if there's nothing beneath the cell you're in, it'll go to the bottom of the workbook. Okay, so if I go over here to column A with nothing in it, and I press control up, I'm right back at A1. So what can happen here is you can start flying through the workbook, right? You can start jumping around really quickly. This is super helpful. And we're going to see how this gets in combination with the highlight. This is going to be really useful. So to highlight, instead of using the control key, you're going to use the shift key. And now you're probably realizing, hey, this is why we have our left hand here, and this is why we have our right hand here. It's so you can move quickly through the workbook. So with the shift key, okay, all it does when you hold shift, it's going to say, okay, whenever I move away from my current cell, I want you to also highlight the next cell. So if I hold shift and do the arrow key up, it'll highlight that cell, and I can keep pressing it, and I can highlight, highlight, highlight. I can go to the right, I can go back left, I can go back down, okay? And it'll just start moving around like this. Now what becomes really cool is if we combine the control and the shift. So say I'm in I-17 here, and I say, okay, well, I could go control right and control left. I could do shift right and shift left. But if I do control and shift and then I press right, boom. And then if I do control shift down, boom. Okay. And then what you can do is you can do control shift right down. Okay, so this is how you quickly grab a large data set. Is you're like, all right, I'm in A1, I'm gonna go all the way down, hop over, control shift down, control shift right. Now you've selected your data set, now you can format it, right? You can do all of these hotkeys here, so I can press Alt, go into home, I can apply the accounting key. I don't like the zeros. Alt H, I can press 9, Alt H 9, right? So um, you can really quickly apply formatting here. So these keys are crucial. Now, just some other things to know. If you get lost in your workbook, if you're all the way down here and you don't know how to get back up, just press Control and the Home key. Okay, so no matter where you are, you press Control Home, you're back here. And the Home key, I don't use a keyboard like this, but it's usually going to be somewhere in like the center here. Uh, all right. And then the next thing really to know is how do you get through your workbook? So using the Control key again, if we do Control Page Up, okay, Control Page Up will take us up the workbook, Control Page Down will take us down the workbook. So this is Control Page Up, this is Control Page Down, Control Page Up, Control Page Down. All right, so that's how you can quickly say, oh, okay, say I want to link a cell, say, oh, I want to link this to this one. So I go over here, I press Control Page Down, and then I can arrow over to the cell I want, press Enter, right? And then I'm like, oh, this is in basic shortcuts H9. Okay, I click over here, I go over to H9, right? So you can quickly go back and forth between the books. All right, and then this one, it's just really good to know. If I'm in a cell, it's really annoying when you're moving around a workbook and you want to make an edit to it to have to take your hands off the keyboard, click on the cell, click in the formula bar, and then start adjusting, okay? By the way, if you're ever doing an adjustment you don't want, right? You just press escape, it'll get rid of it. So, but let's say we just want to edit this cell. If I press F2, it's going to immediately bring the cell up for editing. So, and then I press escape because I don't want it. If I press F2 and I do something that I want, I can press enter and it'll confirm those choices. Press Control Z to undo that. So that is the first part here. The next part, we're going to jump into basic shortcuts and really go into, okay, now you know how to move around. Now you know this is where I'm going to have my hands and get key set up. How do we actually, start using the shortcuts which are up here? So I'll go ahead and make a new video for that, but thank you and I'll see you soon.